Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a new episode of Cranked and Ranked, your favorite podcast of all time, right? If you're watching this on a video, check out Eddie's sweet new shirt. Eddie, where did you get such a great Cranked and Ranked t-shirt?
The link you sent me that I can't remember verbatim.
If you're watching this in the video, you can just scroll down and find some shit. If you're listening to this as a podcast, you have no idea what I'm looking at, but I actually haven't seen this Cranked and Ranked shirt before, but it looks pretty damn good.
I love the color.
Eddie's wearing the fuchsia version of the shirt. You can get it in black or fuchsia. And it's got both of us on it, the Cranked and Ranked kind of logo kind of thing. Oldhead.myspreadshop.com. Or if you're in the UK, old-head.myspreadshop.co.uk. Bam. It feels good doing that with my own shit, but like I imagine if we ever get sponsors, I'm gonna feel really weird being like, buy this wallet at www.wallet.com. Okay. It's
wow,
gonna be weird.
New print, little yellow, different.
So yes, Cranked and Ranked is the podcast you're listening to. And thank you very much for listening to this podcast, because I realize in this day and age, like there are shitloads of podcasts and you only have so much time. And so the fact that you chose us is very cool. You know, it's funny when we first, well, not when we started, but when I first started the Old Head podcast, which was like 3 years ago, I think. I remember thinking to myself, man, everybody has a fucking podcast. And now it's gotten even worse.
Yeah.
Like it's not even fair. All these celebrities starting these podcasts that aren't really that great. And I'm just like, oh, you're getting all these fucking listeners because you're a goddamn celebrity. Meanwhile, me and Edward over here are like, you know, putting out some quality shit and nobody knows who we are, because I haven't been in any movies yet that I know of, but you know.
I was on Jimmy Fallon.
That's true. You were on Jimmy Fallon. That's the thing. That was so interesting that's just such a thing that just came and went. It's like, if for those of you who don't know, Eddie was on Jimmy Fallon in like Jimmy Fallon's version of like Stupid Human Tricks from David Letterman. And he did where he did kazoo noises. What song did you do? Axel F? Is that the song that you did?
And I'm gonna stop it there before we get claimed.
Oh yeah, because it sounds so much like the original.
I'm a professional. Don't practice it until you get it right. Practice it until you can't get it wrong.
Oh man, those are words to live by right there. So introductions. Steven, aka Old Head, that's me. The voice that you just heard is Mr. Eddie Sparxx. Hello.
That is me. Hello.
Yeah.
Hi.
And we're back with another band discography to rank, and this is I think this is one a lot of people are going to be interested in. It's weird that this is a band that maybe not even 10 years ago, maybe a little bit longer, but this was a band that I always felt like didn't get very much respect. Like I got into them, you know, in the early 90s, probably around 91, or 90, fuck, I don't know. But I just always remember I didn't know anybody else that was really into them, and that never changed. And then all of a sudden something happened where like they've become a band that like it seems like everyone, you know, people really respect, almost more so than some of the big four bands, you know.
Yeah.
I guess in some people's opinions, the big four bands are overrated, and one of them in particular is overrated in my opinion, but we won't go into that. But Testament, I think, is not overrated. I think even with all the love that Testament gets, they're still a little underrated as a band, a little bit. So yes, Testament, the classic I guess second wave thrash metal band. I mean, at this point, if it's a thrash metal band that started in the 80s, I'm putting it all together because that was the sweet spot of thrash. They fit in there for me. And I think I've said this before, if the big four is extended to a big five, Testament is the band that has to go in. Just if you're looking at what they actually mean when they're talking about the big four, they don't mean who started something. They mean bands that have a lot of influence and also had a good amount of success, which Testament's way more successful than Overkill or Exodus. So I would think they belong there. Honestly, I'm going to go ahead and piss people off right away. I think Slayer should be taken out of the big four and Testament should be put in because I just think that the Testament fits way more with those other three bands than Slayer does. You know?
Yeah, stylistically, I think so. Plus, I think they're a very virtuosic band, you know, whereas Slayer is very much so. They have their thing and they can play fast, but like solo wise, if you listen to an Alex Skolnick solo and listen to a Kerry King solo, there's a gap there.
You've got,
not throwing shade, but
Alex Skolnick is like, you know, I'm pretty sure he's like steeped in music theory, and he knows all about jazz guitar and all this other shit. And then Kerry King is like,
just dives and tremolo picking.
Well, you know, it goes great with their music. We'd already did Slayer a long time ago, if you're interested. But
we love Slayer.
Yes, Slayer's a great band. That's the thing, is that sometimes I'll make an opinion, you know, where I like one band or one album more than another, and people take it as like I don't like them, and I'm like, no, that's not the case at all. I love Slayer, but but when we find ourselves in this position, like where we are now, where we're doing these rankings, all of a sudden we have to start being a little bit harsh, because otherwise we have all these albums that are tying for number one. And it's like, what the fuck do you do? And then you're confused about what goes last. And so this is a band that it was pretty difficult for me, because I did a ranking of Testament about 2 years ago, I think. And it's changed since then. And there's been a new album added since then, Titans of Creation. And so yeah, this will be interesting, because I went at this differently, because when I did that last ranking, I just kind of randomly spot listened to stuff because I knew the albums, and I was like, okay, well, let me just throw this together because it's a video and nobody's going to watch it. Like, that's how I thought of things at the time. Nobody's going to see this, so I'm not going to break my neck trying to do this. But now I literally went and I started, because I know the classic era, I know really, really well. So I literally said, you know what? I'm going to start at Demonic and move all the way to the most recent. And then I'm going to go back and start with Legacy and move all the way until Low. And so and that's what I did. And it gave me a kind of a new perspective on the albums, and it made my ranking way easier than it had previously been. But, you know, without further ado, where did we get into Testament? I got into I think it was 1990, because Practice What You Preach was the album that I got into, but that wasn't their new album at the time. I'm pretty sure it was Souls of Black. But I got Practice What You Preach on cassette, and I don't know if I really even knew much about Testament. I just saw the album cover and went, oh, well, this looks like the kind of shit that I'm listening to now, because I was already into Anthrax and things like that, and Metallica, or not so much Metallica yet. Metallica would come a little bit later, but and I got that cassette and I was just like, this album fucking rules. And then I got into that thing where you start grabbing all the bands that you like, you know, you look at liner notes and you look at who they're touring with, and you're like, oh, okay, well, Exodus, I got to go buy an Exodus album now. And you know, all these things. And that's how you did it back in the day, where you didn't have the internet. You had to look at liner notes and thank yous and other things like that to or like you know, sometimes I would like videotape Headbangers Ball, and bands would mention another band's name, and I would like pause it and then write it down. I'm like, oh, next time I go to the record store, I'm gonna look for whoever the fuck that is they just named. So yeah, I got into Testament around then, early 90s ish, and I've loved them ever since. I just think that they're a fantastic band. Where did you get into them?
This was a classic case of having heard a lot of thrash and not knowing where to go next. So I knew Metallica, Slayer, and Megadeth pretty much inside out, but I was kind of like, okay, I've pretty much exhausted all of these discographies. I want, something new. And
Mhm.
this was pretty, I was about, I would have been about 15 when I came across these guys. And I was like, dude, this is like a sweet spot between what I love about all three of these bands, and they just nail whatever they touch. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
they
it's
they
cat
really fit
stuff.
nicely for me in between Metallica and Megadeth because
Mm,
it's got vibes of both of those kind of bands. And I think that's what's so unique about them to me, because they do have qualities that it's real, parts of it are real easy to swallow, but then other
yeah.
parts of it you're like, damn, that's some tasty leads going on. What the fuck, man? Like
Yeah.
it's kind of the perfect marriage of not being so complicated that it's like fuck you.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's they're amazing. Everyone that's been in this band is an amazing musician. So it's
Totally.
yeah.
Yeah, they've kind of got like the chunky riffage of Metallica and a
Mhm.
kind of similar vocal approach as well.
Yeah.
That would go on to be a little more similar as the albums went on. But yeah, they've got they even delve into like Slayer ish tempos as well. Like
Yep.
something like Curse of the Legions of Death is just fucking insanely fast.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, let's talk some fucking Testament, dude. Let's get
Cool.
into
Yeah.
it.
So this is actually going to be the first of a two-parter because we've got 13 full-length studio albums to rank, and
Yeah.
they deserve not to be rushed. So today is going to be the bottom seven,
Mm.
from number 13 down to seven, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway,
That's
yeah,
there we are.
backwards math is not fun. Let me tell you right there. If I ever get pulled over for a DUI and they say things like count backwards from 100, I'm gonna be like, sorry, just take me in.
Yeah.
I don't I don't think I can do that
Mathematicians are
sober.
mathematicians are just straight up fucking masochists, dude. Like it's just straight up.
I get like annoyed at my daughter because she's like math is like really easy, and I'm like, where did you get that from? How are you my daughter? Math is pretty easy. Anyway, all right, so yeah, let's start with our number 13, the dead last. This is going to be, I have a feel we're going to have the same fucking album, so let's go
Yeah,
ahead and
this is
get
a match.
number 13 out of the way. You can start.
Yeah. Number 13, First Strike still deadly. Should have been called The First Strikes Were Deadlier. Uh cuz this is a
Should have been called
re-recordings.
second strike unnecessary.
Yeah. Oh yeah, this is a re-recordings album. Long time watchers of the show know how we feel about that. Much like every studio re-recordings album, it is an absolute lesson in how to rob the soul and personality from your own classic songs.
Yeah.
And, the thing that makes those 80s thrash albums so endearing is the production and atmosphere. That they feel otherworldly, whereas this feels very sterile. Um,
Yeah.
and it's not like the performances are bad.
No.
However, yeah, like they're excellent musicians, but the songs lack that push and pull of musicians playing together, and they suffer from that like early Pro Tools snapped to a grid problem of like
Yeah.
when digital recording first took off. It's very in one place. It's kind of robotic. Um, Chuck isn't doing the high screams, which, I get that he's older as of recording this, but, if I want growly Chuck, I'll just listen to later Testament,
Yeah. Well, I think
Yeah,
I don't know for sure because I never found, I'm sure it's out there somewhere, but I didn't found a really good explanation for why they did this album. But I'm assuming it as, like a lot of bands, they probably had a shitty record deal and they
yeah.
maybe re-recorded some classics to put it out there and make some money
Mm.
around, because if because I don't know, because this was 2001, and at this point, new metal was king. And so I guess it also could have been an attempt to like make a more modern sounding version of these classic songs. But either way, that seems to be a mindset that a lot of bands had around that time of, oh no, we got to be modern. Nobody wants to listen to this old shit anymore. And like,
Yeah.
so like, let that be a lesson to like all bands out there. If like, you recorded something in one era and then all of a sudden everything changes and you're like, oh shit, we have to update all this old shit. You don't. It's going to come back around. And the
Yeah.
people that loved it in the beginning are going to continue to love it. And when you make an album like this, all you do is you make people like us have to put it last place
Yeah.
on a ranking.
You're a band. You're not a fucking software provider. You don't need to update your music,
But shit, a lot of people think that they do. And yeah, I mean, you're right. Like the especially like early days Pro Tools, it's not horrible on this album. There's a lot of shit that's worse, but it just reminds me of like where music ended up going and is today. And it's like
Yeah.
there's so much soul that's just missing from music. It's gotten to the point now that occasionally like I'll hear a popular song, like whether it's pop music or a rock band or whatever,
Hmm.
and I'm very, very susceptible, if that's the word, to hearing the digitization, that's a hard word to say this early in the morning, of like vocals, like whether it is some sort of a pitch correction or just some sort of, I don't know, filters of one or another. They really bum me out. And occasionally I'll hear a song that's new from somebody and I'll hear like a flat or sharp note and I'll go, whoa,
Yeah.
they really sang this in the studio and didn't do shit to it. And it sounds great, because sometimes that makes music so much better. Like those little tiny things, whether
Yeah.
it be in the vocals or, in an inconsistency in guitar playing or whatever, it just makes it all of a sudden, it's like, oh yeah, these songs are made by humans. Forgot. It's like that part in Batman where they're all like, it's some kind of body armor. He's human after all. That's from like the only good Batman movie. I'm sorry. You can talk to me about The Dark Knight all you want, but that's the Dark Knight is like a really well directed movie with a guy that plays the Joker and fucking rules, and everything else about the movie is kind of like, so anyway, sorry not to get on that tangent, but I'm a fan of the Keaton Batman. I'm also not a fan of comic book movies for the most part, so don't listen to me. I don't know where that came from, talking about Batman. They're trying to get me to go back to a fucking movie by putting Michael Keaton back in a movie, and I'm all like, nice try, okay? Because I know the rest of the movie is going to be the same old story, where it's like, all we got to do is put these crystals together, and it goes, blah, 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 and then everything's fine. End of the movie. That's some shitty writing right there. Anyway, hi. What are we on?
This has been a PSA sponsored by Cranked and Wrecked.
Nah, there's some good shit out there. It's early in the morning for me. We normally don't do that over here. For me, it's 9:30 in the morning.
Damn,
and
dude.
It's on a Sunday. And I reserve my beer drinking for Friday nights and Saturday nights. So I don't get wasted, but I do feel it in the morning.
This is still dedication for sure.
Yeah. I'm all about the cause. I don't want to make these people wait. I know that some people really need their cranked and ranked, and so like I'm sorry, I didn't mean to derail us. I did, because people love that. Anyway, First Strike Still Deadly. Anything else you want to say about it? I mean, it's the one thing I do like is they re-recorded that old song with Steve Souza on vocals, and that's cool. But that's because I think that song only exists as a B-side somewhere.
Yeah, or a demo or something.
Well, it's a demo, but I think they actually recorded it with Chuck as a B-side I might be
Oh,
wrong. I think they did. I don't know. That's I'm not 100% on that. But see, that goes to our thing about talking about how great, like, the Raging Wrath of the Easter Bunny by Mr. Bungle, like that's a
yeah.
re-recording that I can get behind because it's a shitty demo and they're just
Yeah, it's like
making
four
it into
track.
an album. So like if First Strike Still Deadly had been an entire re-recording of their first demo with Steve Souza or some unique thing like that, I'd probably like it a lot more. But as it stands, it's fine, but it's completely unnecessary, and I never listen to it.
Yeah, I would respect this far more if it was like a live show and they played a set list of exclusively like 80s stuff
Yeah,
and released it and then, called it, First Strike Still Deadly. Like, but it's the fact it's a studio re-recording. If it was a live show, I would, you know, I'd give it a pass.
yeah,
But yeah,
but
all
it,
in all,
it
just buy the classic albums, in my opinion, or the greatest hits. Like
yep, it comes in dead last because of
dead
all
last.
all of these things. So now we can move into the legit ranking because
Okay.
everybody knew that was going to be last on our lists.
If
Um,
included at all.
if included at all. Well, we
Yeah.
discussed that. Did we even talk about that album? Yeah.
Yeah.
But now, like, this will be interesting because I don't think we've ever had a really big discussion about Testament. So I don't really know where you stand on modern Testament and classic Testament. So our rankings could be quite different from each other.
I think there's a big moment about halfway in where they find themselves in a zone and they are very happy with that zone, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So essentially, Modern Testament at this stage is just an amalgamation of pretty much everything they've ever explored. You got the
Yeah.
thrash in there, you got the hooks, you got the groove, and you got occasional death metal stuff going on as well.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty much everything the Gathering onward. But let's get into something before the Gathering.
All right. Number 12. Before the
So
gathering.
before the Gathering, and that is Demonic. Now, I really, really, really wanted to get on with this album because it's so different,
Yeah.
but it's such a deviation from what Testament are best at
Yeah.
that it ends up not having the Testament identity, and it's just kind of a good death thrash album.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's I'm gonna do a track by track. Now I will say, big disclaimer. I've put it right at the top here. Let me find it. Big ass disclaimer. This is probably top 3 hardest rankings I've ever had to do because the entire bottom half of my list, barring the last 2 albums, could change any day of the week.
Yeah.
I had to pull a Steven and try to look at things in an objective way, and also to make sense out of this episode. But with that, let's talk about Demonic.
Mm-hmm.
So you got Demonic Refusal. Death Metal Testament has arrived. The bellowing growl that Chuck Billy really began to utilize on Low, mixed with his singing voice, has kind of taken the helm. The music does match its brutality, and this first track, I was like, oh fuck, dude. Like, I was excited to see where it would go. Burning Times, catchy and brutal. I actually really like it so far. Together as One, again, even their bottom tier stuff still kind of rules.
Yeah.
Jun Jun, Jun Jun.
Yeah.
That riff, like, it's literally doing what
it
it
makes me
says.
laugh every time that song starts and like that I look at the name, I'm like, I get it.
Yeah. Like the has Gene Hoglan ever done a drum fill that wasn't tasty as fuck?
Dude fucking rules. I don't know.
Yeah.
He's
Oh,
he's one of those drummers that anything he's been on, like you just know, like if he's on the project, you're like, the drums are gonna be fucking ace.
yeah.
That's for sure.
Oh man, you get John Doe. Like, the groove breakdown in the middle of this is simple but incredibly crushing. Murky Waters, the breakdown in this is also filthy. Holy shit. Hatred Rise, more brutality with vibes aplenty. Distorted Lives keeps it really heavy. There's a very clear Machine Head influence on this song with those harmonics in there, with that riff. Because you got to think this is 1997. The thing is very popping off right now. New Eyes of Old, Crushing, still in a vibey kind of zone. 10,000 Thrones keeps that death metal flair going. Nostrovia is this short little final blow. Like, overall, when it comes to the 90s groove era of Testament, which, you know, began to some extent on the Ritual and was in full swing by the time Low came along, like, this album takes it to the next logical step. However, is it nearly as memorable as the albums that precede it from a song perspective? Not really. It's more of a check us out, we're doing the death metal thing, and then they kind of half retreated from that on the next album. But yeah, that's my take on Demonic. I kind of just went full force on that one. But
so I'm pretty sure on my old ranking that was my last place pick, but that has changed.
See, I thought that would be the case.
Yeah. So my number 12 is still one that was low before, and now it's dead last for their original albums. My number 12 is Brotherhood of the Snake from 2016.
Okay.
Which you know, I'll probably say this every album in the bottom half. These are all taken on their own great albums.
Yeah.
Like the worst Testament album is better than most bands' best albums. So
yeah.
So take that as you will. So Brotherhood of the Snake brings on Steve DiGiorgio on bass, who like is fucking killer. He played with Death, didn't he? At some point, I think he did. He played with he's played with a lot of bands, and he's a very, very capable bass player. That's that's kind of underselling him. But at this point, the reason why this one is last is because, as Eddie pointed out, Testament gets into a zone, and Brotherhood of the Snake is like, after 2 albums, they're still kind of doing the same thing again.
Yeah.
But a thing that starts to happen, especially now, it starts happening on Brotherhood of the Snake. I start hearing riffs and I go, that sounds really similar to a riff that was on this other album. Like they do these very similar things. And then sometimes they'll actually have a riff that's played on a single string on one song, and then it's just a chord on the other song. And I go, that's the same thing. So, but I know it happens. But at this point, all of a sudden I'm like, oh, there's some really similar ideas on this album. But the problem is there's absolutely no progression whatsoever here. And then when you take the album apart, there are some real standout tracks, but some of the tracks are probably the worst Testament songs they've done in a long time, where they're, especially lyrically speaking, there's some of them where I go, Chuck, and I don't think Chuck writes all the lyrics. I think that he collaborates sometimes with other band members, or I don't know, but sometimes I'm just like, this album feels very like thrown together to me. Like it doesn't, it sounds like a Testament album, but I think it's lyrically where all of a sudden I go, this seems like this is a collection of B-sides from other albums that they did, aside from one or two really big standouts. But like I said, on its own, well produced, well performed. It's got really cool parts on it. But listening to the most recent albums in order, once you get to Brotherhood of the Snake, it's kind of like, all right, well, it's kind of the same, only not as good as what came before it. And so that to me is a big no. Like, it's like, if you're gonna do similar sounding albums right next to each other, the songwriting should be the part that gets that progresses. Like
Yeah.
I'm okay with that as long as you give me something else. Like bring something else up at least one notch.
Yeah.
And Brotherhood doesn't do that. So it ends
If
up good.
I was gonna say, if I'm gonna have like toast every day for a week, I want the jam to be different. I don't want strawberry every day. Sometimes I want a raspberry. Sometimes
Yeah.
I want fucking marmalade, dude. That's
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 a,
that's
that's not a bad way to put
vary
it.
the toppings up, people.
Yeah. So yeah, Brotherhood of the Snake ends up at number 12 just because it's out of all of their albums, I feel like it's the least exciting and the least unique. So there you go. My number 12.
Cool. So I've done my 12, yes. Number 11.
Number
Uh,
11.
cool. So my number 11 is The Formation of Damnation from 2008.
What?
Hot take. Hot take, I know. Hear me
For a
out.
second there, I thought I had fallen asleep and I was
Yeah.
dreaming of a world where clearly this isn't an album that's low for me.
well, my thing is, like, there is absolutely nothing bad I can legitimately say from a songwriting perspective,
Yeah.
because the music on this is fucking amazing. The main issue I have with this album is that it has a little bit of a product of its time production issue for me. I think it's probably to me the most claustrophobic sounding produced wise,
All right.
looking at it from a vibe perspective.
I'd give that to The Gathering, but okay.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, listening to this, the second The Gathering finished, I I don't know that, like, again, like I say, my list is subject to change, and
Yeah.
this is me being very nitpicky, and I don't know what it is about The Gathering compared to this one, but something I went right from The Gathering to this one, and there was something in the production that changed, and that's like 10 that's an almost 10-year gap as well. And I don't know what it
Yeah.
was. To my ears at the time, I might have just been listening to it too loud. But um, I think really, to me, yeah, I have no good reason for this to be this low. I still really like it, but
Yeah.
I found the production to be a little bit claustrophobic, which kind of makes sense for 2008. But for the glory of, and then into More Than Meets the Eye, is unforgettable. It's one of the best songs in modern metal, I think. I first heard this on that PS3 game, Brutal Legend, where you play as Jack Black in this
Oh
like
yeah.
world literally based on heavy metal. It's kick ass.
Plus, you have to remember, like the big thing for me with this album was Alex Skolnick returning,
Yes.
and just the interplay with Eric Peterson. Like those two are meant to be together. Like they sound so good together, and that's a big deal on this album for me.
Yeah, I think as well that this was the one album I owned for a long time that wasn't one of their 80s ones. So
Yeah.
I think that could have had an impact on a bias or something. It was the one I'd rarely touch on.
Yeah.
But, The Evil Has Landed, is a thrasher based with, very little subtlety about 9/11.
Well, I mean, he literally says September 11 in the fucking
Yeah,
song.
yeah, exactly. The Formation of Damnation. I may stand corrected here because this is a far better album so far than I remember it being. The breakdown halfway through is absolutely crushingly heavy. Dangers of the Faithless. This is without a doubt the closest album stylistically to their classic thrash era since Souls of Black. Like, albeit with that late 2000s production, which I think holds it back a little bit, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
But, The Persecuted Won't Forget, absolutely pounding. Henchman Ride, the pinch harmonic in that
That's
riff.
a fucking song there.
And, like, to the listeners out there, this is how I'm talking about one of my bottom picks. I still think it fucking rips. I
Well,
don't think there's.
we have to
Yeah,
remember, like it's such this is a band that you even showed me an example of somebody. Where was the site where somebody had ranked the Testament albums?
I'm going to be perfectly honest. I looked at about 20 different sites. I can't remember specifically.
Well, there was one that you sent a screenshot to me, and this dude had put The Legacy as the worst,
dead last,
and then Souls of Black as the next worst, and I'm just like, how old is this guy? And what I know, and I called him an edge lord.
Yeah.
I was like, did I use that term right? Because it seems like that's like a hot take kind of thing where you're just like, oh, you know what? These classic albums, I don't even care. All right.
But the funny thing is, like, I was thinking, I was looking at this dude's list, and everybody is entitled to their own opinion. That's the beauty of this show.
But let's be fair, some people are talking out of their asses and are completely uninformed and don't know shit about music. That's fine. Have your opinion, but when you present it as I'm going to publish this somehow and you are that clueless, then somebody needs to take you down a peg. And that's what I'm here to do.
Yeah. So like the thing that got me, I found fascinating was I struggled to understand how someone can have The Legacy like at number 11, but then have The New Order, which stylistically is incredibly similar, just produced better, at the opposite end of the list, and then The Gathering is above it. But yeah,
to each their own, as we're supposed to say. But
and this, that's the fascinating thing about Testament is no one's list is the same. This is one of those bands. Where was I? I'm at
Henchman Ride, I think, was the last one you talked about.
Yep, awesome pinch harmonic riff. Killing Season, they haven't completely forsaken their groovy side. Like they've definitely kept the slowing down a little bit, but they always kind of had an element of that.
They are good at making sure there's a variety on their albums, which is something I've always really liked about them.
Totally. Like Afterlife is kind of like middle of the road Metal Zone. Fear, or FEAR, pretty damn good song. Leave Me Forever is a gnarly closer. While I'm not crazy about how this album sounds stacked to some of their other records from a vibe perspective, there is a definite reignition of them as a unit. They've got the dudes back. The thing I'll say here though is, from this point on, you could argue The Gathering as well, but from this point on, chronologically, they do improve production-wise a little bit, but the Modern Testament sound doesn't vary crazy from album to album from this point in. So, yeah.
Yeah, awesome. And I agree with that last thing that you said. That's why the one that's number 11 is number 11. My number 11 is the most recent album, Titans of Creation from 2020, which is interesting. If anybody remembers seeing my review of this album, I was just like, this album's fucking awesome. And it is fucking awesome. But it's 11 because it is better than Brotherhood of the Snake. But once again, still very similar. And once again, riffs that I feel like I heard on other albums, but put together with really cool riffs that I haven't heard before. So it's like, it's a weird push and pull with me on this album. But yeah, they're still kind of doing the same kind of thing. And the songs are really good here. And it's, like I said before, it's a great album on its own. My biggest problem with this album is that once I went through and I listened from Demonic all the way through to Titans of Creation, once I got to Titans of Creation, I'm just like, yeah, this is an improvement from Brotherhood of the Snake, but everything's starting to run together now. And you could interchange songs from the previous 3 albums and make an album, and I would be like, well, it doesn't help that they have the same producer, on everything.
Yeah.
So I've said this on other episodes, stop working with the same producer over and over again. Okay. If you care about your fans, give us different things. Although, never mind. Every time I say that, I have to remind myself that a lot of metal fans, an alarming amount of metal fans, don't want anything different. They want, please put out the same album again. And so I guess that Testament feels like they have to do that. In fact, a lot of old school thrash bands feel like they need to put out the same album or a very similar album again, and go through the motions. The difference is Testament, like, here's the thing. And there's a couple albums where this is a thing, because I understand where some music fans are coming from, because not everybody is a musician. Not everybody has been doing deep dives into music for 30 years.
Yeah.
So I understand that, like, you like what you like, and that it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. You like whatever you like for whatever reasons. But Testament they're really talented people, which means they're also very good at taking a song that either A, is similar to something they already did, or B, when you strip it down, is pretty basic, but they're really good at sprinkling Testament magic on top, or putting a really cool ass breakdown somewhere in it, to where, like, if you really don't know, you're just like, this is great with the widdly widdlies and all this stuff. And it's like, yeah, well, that's Testament doing a little bit of a, like, look at this
sorcery.
Yeah. And so that's how good they are, is that they can take something that if another band did it, it would be pretty dull, but they do it and it's fucking blows the roof off everything. So, and that's what you get with a lot of stuff that they've done in this millennium, where they do have some amazing songs, and then some songs that if you really dig down, you're like, well, it's good. But I'm glad Testament did it, because it sounds fucking great when they do it. So yeah, Titans of Creation has things like that on it, where the more I listen to it, the more I go, all right, well, this is too much similar. And yeah, I at this point, it's, when they put out another album, which I've heard they're already working on another album, if it's the same kind of thing, that's the thing that's really bumming me out with bands, is that new albums are coming out and I finally hit a wall where I go,
yeah,
you can't do the same kind of thing again with me. And that's fine, because I'm just one dude, whatever. If they lose my money, then what does it matter? But it's hitting that wall where, like, if you do a similar thing and it's not as good, then it breaks my heart, because there are bands that, like, I love, and I just want them to try harder, I guess. I don't know. I don't know what it is.
Out of the comfort zone. Yeah.
Yeah, even a little bit, so it's yeah, anyway, Titans of Creation is my number 11. And yeah, let's move on. On to number 10. I didn't know where to go from there, because I start thinking about those kind of things, and I really do, because I'm such a fan of a lot of these bands that when I end up not liking something, it really bothers me, where I almost wish that I could go talk to them and be like, look, I need to tell you something, because yeah. We've had a relationship now for a long time, and the cracks are now starting to really show.
Try some new positions.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it doesn't have to be just missionary all the time. All right. Yeah. You can throw in some reverse cowgirl every once in a while.
Brotherhood of the dog.
Or that, yeah.
Doggy style could do.
You're number 10, sir.
Right on. I was gonna do one of those, like, fucking step bro jokes, like Step Brotherhood of the Snake. Those, like, fucking, what are you doing, step bro? All those fucking weird faux-cest pornos that are coming out these days.
Yeah.
I
mean, whatever floats your boat, I guess.
Yeah. I'm we're gonna cut that out.
Yeah.
Number 10, yeah?
Yes, number 10.
Number 10, Brotherhood of the Snake.
Hey, all right.
I didn't intend for that to come out like that.
Brotherhood of the Snake.
Bada bing, bada boom. Again, you know, very much like what you said, it's one of those where they found themselves in a comfort zone, and this is quite late now in the game where they've stuck to they've kind of kept it on rails and nobody's switching the line, so to speak. So it really for this one, yeah, it's got killer stuff on it, but it doesn't stand out from the pack. So yeah, Brotherhood of the Snake, super heavy thrash groove opener. The pale.
What
One
happened?
second. One sec.
Oh, we've had. What just happened?
Sorry, for some reason the neighbors recently have just decided that their front door isn't loud enough, so they just fucking slam every door.
I didn't even hear it.
I thought it was the front door. It was that loud. Jesus Christ. Yeah. Anyway. Blah. Stronghold. Full-on Crasher. Seven Seals. There's something so beautifully violent about up tempo chugging, especially at like 3.5 minutes in. That kind of like just down picking.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah. Born in a Rut. This one like has a little bit of prog flair to it. It has a lot of tasty drumming and guitar work. Centuries of Suffering, brutal, blasty, like tinging on death metal kind of thing.
Mhm.
Blackjack. Like the thing with this album is that it'd be any other band's best, but it does feel like they're playing it a little bit safe on these later records.
Yeah.
Neptune Spear, this song rules.
I don't know why that title makes me laugh.
Yeah,
I know it's apparently named after like some sort of military strike. It may have been the one where they got Bin Laden or something like that. I don't know.
We just dropped fucking dildos all over the desert.
There's just certain. I don't know why when I hear Neptune Spear, I think of SpongeBob. It just seems like a SpongeBob reference.
Oh man, I'm gonna need to watch the SpongeBob movie later now. Can of Business, like this could have been on an 80s album at points, you know, and
Yeah.
you know, the Number Game is this filthy closing track. Like all in all, it's one of those albums that doesn't really have a threatening aura around it because you know what you're getting. You know,
Yeah.
some albums come out and you're like, oh, is this going to be really good or is it going to be a fucking bomb? But this one is, like you say, it's playing it a little bit safe. There wasn't really anything in it that made me go, oh, I haven't heard that yet. You know, it's them doing what they do best, but they haven't really changed anything. They just kind of, they're just doing something and doing it very well for like the third or fourth time in a row. Mm-hmm. So yeah, with that, I don't really have an awful lot to say. Really, I've kind of already said everything. It's good. It's a good album. It's at least 4 stars. You know, the only album on this list really I would say is anything lower than that is the, you know, Demonic and First Strike Still Deadly. Everything else is at least really good.
Yeah.
But
cool.
Yeah.
So my number 10, this is actually an album that was you know low on my list previous and it got lower. So I'm talking to a select few of you out there. And it's those guys that and I say guys because it's usually guys because girls are not this annoying. It's guys that share those memes like Mustaine wrote them all and it should have been Lars and like the real obnoxious metalheads that
actually
they
yeah, like
it's that certain kind of metalhead that doesn't understand differences of opinion and there's also a group think mentality that I've learned happens not just with metal, but with other kinds of music and with movies and all sorts of stuff, where eventually something becomes a thing where if people enough times say it's great, then other people who don't know better go, oh yeah, it's great. I read that it's great. And so I'm talking to those people because hate me all you want, but my number 10 is The Gathering,
Hey.
which is if I it's a classic example of an album becoming bafflingly overrated, and I don't know why, because it is really good. I mean, fuck yeah, but putting it at number one, it reeks of I don't listen to enough music. And because it's a great album, but I think my problem is that it's an album that it's okay if it's your favorite, but the venom that I got from people that are like, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. So it's like, it's almost like that thing where like I'm insulting their manhood or something because this album was low. But it got lower because, like I said, I went through and listened to, I listened to Demonic first, and then this one came up and I went, nope, this is not as good as Demonic.
Oh shit, yeah, you haven't mentioned Demonic yet.
I have not.
This is gonna piss people off.
Hey, you know what?
Hell yeah, brother.
You know what? 50% of you, I know more than you do. The other 50%, go ahead. Don't, we'll do whatever. The funny thing is, a lot of the lower 50% will think they're in the upper 50%. Isn't that how it works? You see that a lot in America with politics. People that don't really know very much think they know a lot. Isn't that weird? Anyway,
isn't it great that we're all better people?
Anyway, Gathering is a great album from 1999. Great album. Don't get me wrong. It's great. It's not that great. You got Steve DiGiorgio on bass because I think he came in and then left and then came back. But I think the biggest thing why this earned so much metal cred was that you have Dave Lombardo on drums.
Yeah, 100%. Slayer fans did this again.
To be completely honest, though, like I agree with that aspect of it. Like Dave is great on everything, and also honestly, Dave Lombardo is more my style of drummer that I admire because I like drummers that technically can do a lot of stuff, but make it seem a little bit more raw. Yeah. Like I'm pretty sure that Dave Lombardo could play everything that Gene Hoglan plays, but Gene Hoglan makes it seem more like a math equation. And Dave feels way more organic, and I enjoy that a lot more than your technical type drummers. Although, like, I'm a huge Neil Peart fan, but he's an exception for me because most of the time, drummers like that, I kind of go, maybe put a little bit more soul into your into your drumming. But so The Gathering, coming from Demonic, like they add some thrash back in, and Chuck goes from just trying to do a majority guttural style vocal to now moving into this kind of, he uses the guttural when it's necessary, and then does his kind of normal Chuck style vocal for everything else. Although, like the one thing I think this does retain from Low and Demonic is that this is still like real heavy. Like it's not fully in the thrash area now. It's still got some of that heavier, the late 90s metal kind of feel to it. This was the first one, although I think he comes back later, but produced by Andy Sneap, who, when we talked about him before, I couldn't remember the classic UK thrash metal band that he was in. He was in Sabbat or Sabbath, however you pronounce it. So I feel better now. But Andy Sneap he's a good producer, but he does dabble a lot in the modern sound. And in 1999, the modern sound, like what it wasn't there yet. And so this has that problem that you said for Formation, where it feels very claustrophobic. It's too there's not enough air in this album for me. So the big thing about this album, why it ends up being lower, because all those things are good. All the performances are great. Everyone sounds great. The problem is some of the songs are really great. Other ones are just good songs. Like there's not a quality that maintains throughout the whole album. All performed amazingly well, but at this point, I think we've established that that's the norm for Testament. Like they don't put out anything that's performed less than 100%, you know? So I really think that it deserves acclaim for being an amazing metal album. It doesn't deserve acclaim for being one of Testament's best, because it's not. it's not one of their best. To me, it's a transitional album of them moving away from what they were doing. You know, they went, there was a progression from Low to Demonic, and then it's a progression out with The Gathering, and then they get to Formation, and I think they finally hit that sweet spot of, oh, this is the Testament sound, where now here's all an amalgamation of all of the things that we can do, and here you go. So this one at the end of the day suffers from the thing that I was saying before, where Testament have a knack of taking run-of-the-mill song ideas, but then going bing bong 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 bong, and then all of a sudden it sounds really cool and complicated, but in the end of the day it's not. But yeah, it's a really good album. Like I said, with all of these, taken on its own merit, this album is better than most bands' best albums. But it's for a Testament album, it's just, it doesn't have enough to bring me back to it. And I wish that I could get on board with the enthusiasm for this album, but I can't, because it's not a go-to. It's not a go-to Testament album for me at all. So that's why it's my number 10. And everybody get your comments in down below telling me that I don't know what I'm talking about, which is fine. You know, maybe I don't. I don't know.
Cool.
You judge me.
Yeah.
You be judged. Something like that.
Yourself. Yeah.
Moving on. Number 9. Eddie, I told you can't wear the invisibility cloak while we're doing the podcast, because now they can see us. Okay. All right.
Yo.
All right. Now we're back, man.
Cool.
The first half of this episode was all just a dream. Anyway.
Whoa.
So here we are at our number 9 Testament albums.
Okay, so we're gonna have like an almost matchup with The Gathering, because it is my number 9.
Oh wow, too low, Eddie.
Yeah, this is really good. However,
yep.
I believe that there is stuff in their discography that is better.
Mm-hmm.
And any elitists that want to come fight me, my address is okay, yeah, I'm gonna jump straight in.
Doesn't it seem like the people that are that crazy about The Gathering, they are those dudes that see a girl in a metal shirt and they're like, name 3 songs.
Yep, 100%, dude. Yeah. Meanwhile, what you guys got to remember is you got to be like, hey, nice shirt, because at least then you're not being a dick.
Yeah.
This is self-help with Eddie Sparxx. You got your problems, phone in.
The more you know.
The more you know. There we go. Cool. Yeah. DNR. Do not resuscitate. We've come full circle, sorta. Like they're bringing thrash elements back,
Mhm.
but this record incorporates approaches present on low and demonic
Mhm.
as well, which I think is something that a lot of people that talk about this album kind of forget. They're like, they're thrash again, and it's like, well, they're not like the legacy kind of thrash. They're
Yeah.
still very much in the. It's almost kind of like they looked at low and they looked at demonic and they were like, okay, we'll put a little bit of our 80s thrash thing back into our songwriting, but sonically we're still going to sit between groove and death.
It's also a thing where it makes me feel like a lot of people don't really listen to full albums, because people have said that about Megadeth albums over the past several years, where they go, they're thrash again, and I'm like, oh, you mean there's a thrash song on it? like did you not listen to everything else? Because it's not really that thrashy, but whatever.
Yeah, it's like we said in the Anthrax episode. A lot of these formerly full on thrash bands have found their kind of they've evolved to the point now where they're just kind of like happy doing different kinds of songs.
Yeah.
And I think that this is what happened with Testament, but they do sonically have a formula at this stage,
And that's and
and
that's
it works.
that's exactly why I said they fit in better with Metallica, Megadeth, Anthrax,
Hmm.
because Slayer is a band that didn't they had their albums where they did some different shit, but they pretty much stayed true to this is what we do.
Yeah.
And the all the everybody else everybody else in the big four, they've all become, you can just call them metal bands. Sure,
Yeah.
there'll be a thrash song here or there, but and I get that, because you get sick of plus you're like, we've already done that. It's
Yeah.
like, and if you when you take things into like a live setting, if you're going to play classic thrash songs and then you're doing new songs that sound like the old songs, then live everything just kind of runs together. So variety is the spice of life, as somebody
For
once
sure.
said. I don't remember who he was, but he was a smart man or woman. I don't know who said it.
Sure. Could have been
Probably Shakespeare. Everything seems like it was Shakespeare at some point.
God, yeah. Well, where was I? Where was I? Oh, hang on,
Track
wait.
one, I think.
I fucked up. I didn't do my signature thing. DNR. Do not resuscitate. Uh, I've already described the song, so yeah, I'm gonna go do Down for Life. Yeah, they really went back to their roots, songwriting wise, a little bit. You can tell this laid the groundwork for everything that followed. Eyes of the Wrath, could have been on low. True Believer, like this song is like reminiscent of the Practice What You Preach era. It's kind of hooky, but heavy at the same time, with like the
Mhm.
vocals matching the guitar part. He's kept the hold of the growl though. 3 Days in Darkness, nasty, slow grinder with some nice growled double kick sections and whoa-ohs in there. That's always a good thing in my book. Um, Legions of the Dead, swift and brutal, feels like a spiritual, albeit slightly more death metal successor to the equally furious Cot Lord. Curse of the Legions of Death. I had to do that. I can't bring that song up and not say it like that. Careful what you wish for. Like, here's another one that could have been on low. Riding the Snake. Holy fucking shitballs, this song is awesome. Like, you can tell Dave Lombardo is on the kit with a double kick like that.
Mhm.
Allegiance is kind of shorter but groovy. Sewn Shut Eyes. One thing I will say about this album is the guitars sound meaty. Like, I get a big Pantera vibe here. Fall of Sipeldom, I think is how you say it. Sipeldom?
Close enough.
Sipelidome?
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, it's the kind of brutal death metal song. Hammer of the Gods, ultra 90s wah vibe on here. This kind of feels like a 25% backpedal to where they're kind of doing some death metalish stuff, but with parts that could have been on low.
Mhm.
and their more thrash efforts. So this is kind
Yeah.
of where they were pulling everything that worked so far and just said, you know what, we're going to put this album out. It's going to have thrash in it. It's going to have what we've experimented with on the last two.
Mhm.
Let's see how this one goes. And then this one proved very effective, and they've stuck to it pretty much since. Um, so yeah, but I do find that quite fascinating that, you know, there was an almost 10-year gap between The Gathering and um
Formation of Damnation.
that's the one I was going to call it, More Than Meets the Eye. That, you know, even though they got Alex Skolnick back, there's still a lot of similarity,
Yeah.
even in the last like 9 years between them.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think I think it's just because what they're doing now, even though like I do criticize it for being samey on the more recent albums. I feel like it's a very natural thing. I feel like
Yeah.
they're writing the songs that naturally come out of them. They're not
Mhm.
necessarily pushing themselves to be some other kind of band, which is fine, like if that's what they want to do. But I feel like it is a very natural thing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the same as, you know, like a band like Anthrax, like we said.
Yeah.
They've just kind of they've gone from thrash to just metal, and that's okay.
Yeah, yeah. As long as you make good music, I don't care what your subgenre is.
Yeah.
It just bring me something that's gonna engage me. So you done with that one with your number nine?
I am very done with my number 9.
Cool. So my number nine. This is I'll go ahead and throw it out here. My number nine is Demonic from
Hey.
1997, which I believe was dead last in my original ranking that I did a couple years ago.
Wow,
But
that's quite a climb.
I was a little bit harsh on this album, and I realized that the problem is that I don't like the vocals. Like I like death metal vocals when they're done in a unique way, but unfortunately, like Chuck Billy's death metal vocals are really sort of like any dude could be doing this. It's
It's
not.
pretty standard
It's very
fare.
standard. So I think that took away from the album for me, because the big problem with this album is that the songs are so good, they need more vocally than what he's giving them.
Yeah.
So if he had done the vocals in the same style that he had done on Low, this album might even be higher than this, because
Mm.
going back into this, just, fresh, when I was like, okay, we're going to rank Testament. First album I'm going to listen to is the one that was dead last time, Demonic. And I found myself like 2 or 3 songs in. I'm like, all these songs are fucking great. Just the vocals are just like, man, that could have been cooler, because there's no dynamic. Because it's not like he's a death metal vocalist that goes really low and then he just does the one thing. And so
yeah.
yeah, it's very much like this, and so I don't. It takes away from the songs. Once again, you have Gene Hoglan on drums, fucking killing it. And then from the original lineup, you only have Chuck Billy and Eric Peterson on this, which it makes sense, because on Low, I don't think, no, Alex wasn't even on Low.
No.
And so it makes sense that, I feel like I don't, this period of Testament, I have no problem with, because it does feel like a very natural thing. It doesn't feel
authentic. Yeah.
like, this doesn't feel like they all of a sudden tried to jump on a death metal bandwagon, because Low already had elements of that. And to be fair, if you want to compare this album to actual death metal albums, even the music isn't that death metal. It's just heavy, not very, some of it's fast, some of it's not, but it's got a big bottom,
Yeah.
talking about mud flaps, my girls got them. You know what I'm saying? It's got a big bottom. So you'd think that I would love this album, but yeah, no, I do. It's great. That's one of the best things about it. So it's kind of like a Butterface album. It's like, the
Yeah.
the body of this album is banging, and then you get to the face and you're like,
Butterface. Yeah.
Sorry, that's very rude. That's not very. That's not very 2021 of us. We should. All faces are beautiful.
We got light switches. We'll make it work.
Anyway, so yeah, this feels very natural from Low, but yeah, they are really good songs that would have been great songs if the vocals had more of a dynamic thing going on. Because the songs need more. They need more than what Chuck does. And also on this album, as much as I do love when bands put different things out there because it makes their discography more interesting, I do have to admit that I do miss the little Testament things. There's not enough Testament style things on this album, because you said it sounds very much not like a Testament album, and I agree. So I almost feel like I wish there was a little bit, sprinkled on top that was testamenty. Yeah. Okay, whatever. So I do appreciate that this is a different approach, because that's at least keeps it interesting. And I think that's probably why it ended up going higher for me, because I'm all like, yeah, this really does give me something else to chew on and not just the same old things, which they have been doing. But yeah, it's not a go-to album.
I was slowly formulating a joke there about testaminty, and you said you wanted something to chew on. They could do testaminty chewing gum, and
just
minty
or just Testaments. Yeah. It's like Altoids, and they're just Testaments.
Yes.
Come on, guys. Why haven't you done Testaments yet? I would get. I don't really ever eat mints, but I probably would if they were.
I'd eat that up.
Mints. So yeah, Demonic is number 9, because I think I really think that this is an album that is underrated, but I do think the criticisms of it are also kind of warranted. So but for me it's higher up on the lower half, because aside from the vocals, I think the album is killer. And even the vocals, now that I've heard it enough times and I know what I'm getting into, it doesn't bother me as much. But yeah, so that's my number 9. Moving on.
Very nice.
To number 8. Number 8. Okay, I'm Michael Caine. Now, all right, that's it. Next, I'm going to do Christopher Walken. I'm going to do all the good impressions.
No, have you ever seen that? Have you ever seen that fucking? Someone did a bunch of covers of Redbone by Childish Gambino, and like all of them are just like hilarious. There's a Kermit the Frog one. There's the big one is it's just hearing the lyrics done by a Christopher Walken impression is daylight. I wake up feeling like you won't play right. I used to know, but now that shit don't feel right. That's
a great song. It's just a tangent here. Speaking of like an artist throwing out an album that's like you didn't expect, like Childish Gambino, like had solidified himself, or Donald Glover, depending on who you're talking to, had solidified himself as like, I'm kind of like the quirky hip hop guy. And then he does this like psychedelic soul album that just fucking rules from beginning to end. That dude's great. And I'm a big fan of his, because I love Community, Atlanta, great show, and Childish Gambino. That guy is a triple threat.
Hell yeah.
I don't know what the triple one, because we have music. Maybe you could say rapping, singing, acting. I think he writes too. And he's a very nice looking gentleman as well.
Yeah. I'm picking no contests with him. I'd be fucked.
It's true. Anyway, yes. So yeah. Number 8.
Number 8. Titans of Creation is my number 8. God, I keep jumping the gun. So yeah, this one, their most recent album, is damn good.
Yeah.
It's still sonically in the zone, as we mentioned, but there's something really fucking heavy about this album. And like, I think it's got a lot of it probably has the highest quantity, second to only my next pick. it's got a very high quantity of what I like about Modern Testament, and
Yeah.
that largely involves slow, nasty riffs with double kick runs under it. But yeah, Children of the Next Level, awesome, chugging, gallopy opener. World War III, like the midsection of this song marries the Old and New Testament.
Yeah.
It's got a see. This is something I like with this album is that production wise, I'm starting to hear them bring some classic stuff in from a production standpoint rather than a song perspective. So, like the midsection of this song, it's got a totally modern bass drop into a breakdown, but then Chuck has exactly the right amount of reverb and delay on his vocals to resurrect that late 80s Chuck Billy echoey sort of thing. And that's something I love so much about the Old Testament. So when I heard that, I shit a brick. I was
that,
like, oh!
that is something I've been noticing with newer albums, is that I feel like everyone's coming back around to where everyone's trying to get that middle ground between modern and classic sound. And that is a benefit I mean, this album sounds great, and I think that's part of it, where I think a lot of producers are getting a lot better at finding that middle ground between the two.
Yeah, it's like when they started, like production was very wet, and then eventually, as the 90s went on, it went really dry. Then, as the 21st century came around, it got really fucking loud, and now we've got those like 30 years of hindsight. We can now get these albums that sound good on modern systems but don't sound brick walled to fuck, and they've got like air in them.
I really wish that like there could be some sort of revolution in the music community where everybody agrees to keep everything below a certain decibel level, or whatever you would call it. Like, just like whatever the norm has become, lower that way the fuck down, and everybody stay there now. Like, if you want to be on par with everybody, just stop there. But I guess it's not just the loudness; it's also the compression and all this other shit that like
it's all to do with headroom. Yeah,
people were just I don't know how that sound ever became a thing that people wanted. It's baffling to me that, like, I understand not wanting it to be bathed in reverb like back in the day, but
I mean,
having everything feel like you're listening to it in a little closet, like I don't get the appeal of that at all. But once again,
it's like
I'm an old head over here.
On the one hand, I have this thing about like modern vocals where they sound way too close to my ear. Where it's like, whoa, back off, my guy. Like, you used to sound like you were bellowing out of a cave like a fucking like epic otherworldly being, and now you're just some guy that's like way too close to my head.
That's a thing that really bums me out with I guess it's not necessarily modern, but just like having vocals should never be louder than the snare drum. I feel like they should be somewhere around each other, but like
in a metal mix, it should be another instrument. It needs room to, because it's such a dense genre. It needs room to breathe, and if you don't give it enough headroom, which for those in the audience who aren't into production and other music related things, that is how much room noise has to get loud before it clips the fuck out and everything sounds the same and it's all dynamically fucked because it's all at one level. And that's how you get bored of some modern albums so quickly, because you get side A done and you're like fucking tired.
Here's our new album. I'm gonna beat you in the face with a brick for an hour. After the first half, you're just like, you don't really need to hit me again with the brick. It's cool.
I think we are on an upward trajectory again with production now, because I think we have learned the lesson.
See, what I think is going to end up I hope is going to end up happening, and this is not metal related, but this is rock related. A lot of like pop musicians are now dabbling in rock, like whether it be pop punk or whatever. And so I'm starting to hear that and songs that are legit, like they're rock songs. Sure, they're pop punk, and you could say that like that's not that much rock. It doesn't matter. I feel like
Yeah.
we're moving back in that direction where like I've heard several songs that are like popular songs that are essentially rock songs.
Yeah.
There's like a massively popular song by Olivia Rodrigo, and it's just a pop punk song. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's kind of cool. And then my daughter's like loves this song by Willow Smith, Will Smith's daughter.
Yep.
And it's got fucking what's his name, Travis Barker on drums.
Yeah.
But that's one that pisses me off, because her vocals are so much louder than his drums that when it kicks in, it's supposed to be like the big heavy part of the song. I go, why are the drums so small? Oh, because of probably a hip hop producer doesn't know what they're doing with rock music. But now that these artists are starting to dabble in these things, I think everyone's going to get better. And then this will bleed over into the metal world. And all of a sudden, I'm hoping that, now that we're moving back into at least a little bit of appreciation of rock. Like, I'm not one of those old people that's like, I don't like all this hippity hop music. Like, no, I'm okay. I want pop music to be pop and hip hop to be hip hop. And if it's really popular, great. I don't care. But I like the fact that there's a little bit of rock appreciation coming back in. And I think that makes me feel better, because even if it's rock music that I don't want to listen to, the fact that it's there. Another interesting thing. I'm sorry. I'm going on a tangent.
That's all right.
I don't know if you saw, there's an article that was going around that was saying that even in the world of streaming, old music is more popular than new music. Did you see that?
I have. It's got more of a shelf life, I think.
So, but what I think is happening, this is really cool. And I get to see this kind of firsthand with my daughter, because my daughter, I've said this before, where she can't believe that something off of Nirvana Nevermind is that old, because it doesn't sound that old.
Yeah.
So what's happening now, because we live in this world of streaming and TikTok and stuff like that, there's no thing popping up saying this is a song from 1989. It doesn't say that. So these people are just now hearing songs literally the way you're supposed to hear them. We're just like, on the merit of the song, is something in this song pulling you in and making you want to listen to it? And there's not this breaking down of, well, when did this come out? And so we're finding that older music has this quality that newer music doesn't have. Well, some of it does.
Yeah.
And so people are going back and listening to like older shit. And it makes me happy, because I feel like we're on the right track of getting back to making music that sounds like it was made by humans and isn't, I mean, we still have to get over the TikTok hump, because now I think that there's a lot of that, create a song that can be used in a 30-second chunk or whatever, and I think that's probably something that's never going to go away. But I just like the fact that there's an appreciation from younger people, not just because they're having it forced down their throat by dad. Like it's organically happening, and it makes me feel a little bit better for the future.
I think what we're seeing as well, in terms of, pop punk coming around again, is that I just want to say on the show, I've actually made peace with pop punk, and I no longer have the visceral hatred of it I once had, because some assholes ruined it for me. Because I've let go of that now, and I actually enjoy it.
There are also some shitty bands that ruined it too.
Oh yeah, for sure. Where I was going with that is, I think we're seeing now what I saw growing up with the 80s nostalgia. There were a lot of bands, say The Darkness, for example, they were mimicking the 70s and 80s stuff. All of the people my age that grew up during the 2000s and the 2010s, like that grew up with games like, the Tony Hawk games, which had very pop punk soundtracks.
Yeah, true.
They've grown up now and they're like, oh fuck, we can, like there's a dedicated Tony Hawk tribute band that plays songs from the soundtrack of that game, that just fucking tours and plays parties and stuff. I can't remember what they're called. Maybe stick it on the screen. I'm creating jobs for you here.
I probably will completely forget about that, but yes.
yeah, where I was heading with that is that it comes in it's very circular, you
Yeah.
know. Uh Things come and go. There was a big thing of artists, I mean, it to an extent very much today as well, sampling old music and trying to sound retro,
Yeah.
albeit with like a modern production style.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think everything is comes around in circles eventually,
Yeah.
in one way or another.
But
I
it's
think that's what we're
it's
seeing.
it's
Yeah,
it's important for any of you people out there that, want to shit on younger bands, that because maybe they are making stuff that's like just pop punky simple kind of shit. We got to start somewhere. So I mean, really, with those bands, I'm just like, well, good. It's like, I'm glad this is happening, even if it's total rehash and
yeah,
and not bringing nothing new to the table. I feel like it's got to start somewhere, and then eventually, maybe before I'm dead, there'll be another big shift in rock music that brings something that nobody expected. I
yeah.
I'm not totally convinced, but I at least feel better.
AOR gent.
But it's so funny that, like, shit, the shit that you, but some of that stuff is popular again, though. Like, there are legit, like, songs from the AOR era, or even from like yacht rock, that have
Yeah,
become popular. And I'm just like, well, that's
Africa,
it's
prime
fascinating to me.
example.
Yeah, Africa. That's fascinating to me, that's where we are. Where all of a sudden a 40-year-old Fleetwood Mac song becomes a hit again. It's
Hmm.
like, it's absolutely fascinating. Anyway, that was a total derailment, but I feel like that was a more productive derailment. We weren't just talking
Oh,
about,
totally.
coming to America again. But we were on
Oh,
your number
dude.
8.
Number 8. Yeah. Where was I at? Wow, I was on track 2. uh,
Sorry about that, folks, or
that's
you're
cool.
welcome.
So you get Dream Deceiver is an awesome song. I can't fault it, other than saying this ranking was really hard because these albums are all kind of equal for
Yeah.
different reasons. But Night of the Witch, holy fuck, this is heavy,
Yeah.
insanely good. City of Angels is pretty cool. Ishtar's Gate, soaring guitar melodies, love them.
Another one of those I don't know why those kind of song titles make me laugh, because I'm just like, Ishtar's Gate.
Yeah,
Great fucking song though, but still the title, I'm like, okay.
it's like those sort of like really overblown prog bands that would do like, you know,
I think
Night of the fucking Watch of the Dove in the Oven thing. I don't know.
I think
It's me trying
whenever
to.
there's a something apostrophes a something song title, it always reminds me of, like, years ago. Probably, I don't know, maybe like 10 years ago. My band was playing a show, and one of the opening bands was this metal band of, like, teenagers, like real young kids. And I just
Yeah.
remember that one of their songs was called Satan's Chair. and I was just like, that's adorable. Satan's Chair. And it was even made more adorable for the fact that the little vocalist before the song, I say little, he was probably taller than me, but he's young. But before the song starts, he's like, this song's called Satan's Chair. And his mom goes, woo! And I'm like, that is the most adorable thing ever. So when I see something like Neptune's Sphere, Ishtar's Gate, I'm like, Satan's Chair. Whoever that band was, I'm sorry it'd be funny if, like, one of those band members was like, hey, that was me, dude. Fuck
Yeah.
off.
It's like
Satan's Chair
number
was
one
good.
listener. Oh man. Symptoms is like more groovy Modern Testament. They know what to do, and they're good at what they do. False Prophet is just grinding nasty thrash groove. The Healers, here we go. I love, like, where the slime live levels of fast double kick under this slow nasty groove. Code of Hammurabi, like, there's another one. It's like awesome riffage, has a real proggy edge in places. Cursive. I tell you what, there was a lot of songs on this album.
Yeah,
You got
it's it's funny that
like
the metal bands have got they at one point everyone was like we have to have one word title for everything, and now everyone's all like no, now we got to be as metal as possible with our song titles.
Night of the Witch, City of Angels, fucking Code of Hammurabi, and now Curse of Osiris. It's just badass thrash. You know, Catacombs is this epic outro, but it reuses a riff I noticed that's very similar to something on Low. I don't remember specifically which song, but I know I have heard it.
I think
From that
Catacombs was
era.
something that they used as an entrance song. I think they played that when they were coming out on stage.
Ah,
I think that's what it was intended for, maybe. But
that's
so and they
cool.
just threw it on the album.
Yeah, it's a badass album. I think it's really fucking cool.
Mhm.
And I would say it has a personality of its own, I think, to an extent. It being very big, cerebral, and heavy, than like some of the lower, more recent offerings. But yeah, it's a really good fucking album, and I'm glad to see Testament still kicking ass to this day.
Yeah, agreed. All right, so moving quickly on to my number 8. This one is a fucking killer album, and I think this is you haven't talked about this one yet. My number 8 is Dark Roots of Earth from
Hey,
2012, which this is the first one where Gene Hoglan joined on drums like permanently, but
yeah.
now Gene Hoglan is no longer in the band. He left, but I think
Mm,
Dark Angel got back together, and he's got other things he's doing.
right.
Because he was in Dark Angel, right? Am I?
I
I
think
get
he's
Dark Angel,
currently
Death
in.
Angel, all those things. I get sometimes they get jumbled up in my head. So
I think he's currently in like 6 projects. Like
probably,
like an insane amount. How the fuck are you in 6 bands?
yeah.
Madman. But yeah.
So if you've been paying attention, it's clear that like I like this album a lot, but because I have it here and another album I haven't talked about yet, I feel like the Dark Roots of Earth, while it is really good, it's a step down for me from Formation of Damnation. But I think that's only has to do with the songs themselves, because I feel like for me, prior to this Formation of Damnation, every song is one that starts and I go, this fucking song. Whereas this one, half of those songs have that quality. The other half, I'm all like, this is a good song too. It doesn't quite have the fuck yeah going all the way through it. But there's some definite standouts on this album. And it's, once again, really well done. It's an amazing album, comparatively speaking to other bands. The one thing that I do really like about this one is that there's a ballad on it.
Yep.
And I love it when they do. And I think at this point they've done what, 3 or 4 ballads, 3 or 4, I think, songs that you could consider actual ballads.
Yeah.
And I miss that. I know that it became kind of a trend, like everyone threw in a ballady type song, but it breaks up an album.
These guys are good at it too. Like,
they are good at it, but also I love dynamics on an album. And when I say dynamics, I don't mean heavy fast and then heavy slow. Like I would like, I'm okay with like, you listen to like an amazing album like Act 3 by Death Angel. That has funk elements on one song, an acoustic song, and like they literally just like, let's do whatever the fuck we want. And that makes it an utterly enjoyable album. And Testament, for the most part, they're not quite as extreme with what they do, but I like it when they do ballads because I love that. I love getting a different flavor, getting a little bit of a chill down portion of the although this still follows the power ballad kind of thing. The thrash metal power ballad started with like Fade to Black way back in the day, where it does have the soft verse and then the heavy chorus. Cold Embrace is the song. But yeah, it's great because it's the first ballad they've done since I think The Ritual was the last album that had a ballad on it
I think Low had Trail of Tears.
Oh, you're right. Okay, all right. So yeah,
But
so
yeah,
it's just, I love hearing that. And
I'm being facetious.
what
I said I was that was just me being facetious.
is Trail of Tears not a ballad? Why am I Oh no, the song I'm thinking is On the Ritual. Never mind.
Return to Serenity.
Yeah, Return to
Yeah, that's
Serenity.
the one.
Yeah, don't do that to me. I start to think that my brain is going, and I go, "Oh, I totally forgot about this. Oh no, never mind. That's the wrong album." Which is probably a reason why you should just discard my ranking altogether, because not altogether in the head. But yeah,
100 minutes in and it's null and void.
Dark Roots of Earth is an amazing album, but it's they did more amazing than this, and so it's why it's my number 8.
Cool. So I'm gonna jump right off of that because my number 7 is Dark Roots of Earth.
Sweet.
And my reasoning for this is that of all of their modern albums since The Gathering, this one's the most varied. It has the
Yep.
most variety of any of their modern albums. And I remember when Native Blood came out and I thought it was cool, but I didn't get the album at the time because, you know, I was way more into grunge than I was into thrash. This is
Yeah.
like 2012, I was 14. Right out of the gate, you get Rise Up, thrashing opener. Native Blood is this blasting, badass killer song. Further proof Gene Hoglan is not of this world. The title track, Dark Roots of Earth, like those higher strings ringing out, give me a real Alice in Chains vibe on this song. This is what I like about this album is that there's bold jumps to something else. You know that they're not just staying in their lane. True American Hate is thrash as fuck. Holy goddamn, this one rules. Day in the Death, edgy title, but it's a groovy thrash song again. Cold Embrace, the ballad. It's cool to have at least one on an album because it does break up the songs.
Yeah.
You know, change of pace. Man Kills Mankind, we're back in the thrash zone. Throne of Thorns, groovy, cool ass song. And Last Stand for Independence is an excellent closer. Like, I was immensely impressed with this album. And I think the big thing that puts this one over the rest of their post-gathering albums is just the sheer variety of songs. Like, on all of the other ones, they have like, it's a heavy groove metal song that's slightly faster than the last heavy groove metal song, or it's slightly slower, or
Sure.
you know. But aside from that, I think this is to my ears, the most interesting of their modern output. Yeah, that is my number 7 and top pick for this episode because we're doing
Sweet.
handing it over to you.
So my my number 7, this was the roughest for me, especially when we break things in half and I go, oh, well, one's got to be in the lower half.
Oh.
So I had to be really picky and be like, well, you know, because now we're on, once you get to this point, like I love all of these albums, and I mean, I love all of them, but we're in a zone now where it's really hard for me to order things.
Yeah.
And so I had to choose one to come at the end of the top 7 for me. So in the end, I had to put this one here, number 7, Souls of Black from 1990.
Ooh.
This is a rough one because I love this album.
Yeah.
But I did that thing where I went back and listened to the Legacy all the way through to Low. And so you get to Souls of Black, and I'm not one of those people that subscribes, or whatever the word is, to that theory that the big problem with this album is that it was rushed because they wanted to get on the Clash of the Titans tour, because according to them, they also rushed the New Order. And it's like, rushing an album doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad album. Like sometimes the production of it is quick. And I know in this case, I've read that there's a lot of these are like older tracks that they kind of fixed up and put on an album. But yeah, some bands albums that are considered rushed, to me, taken as an album, are really good albums. And I don't think that that's a thing that shouldn't even come into the conversation about whether an album is good or not, because there's been plenty of bands that have taken 10 years to make an album and it's a turd. And so it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So this album doesn't sound rushed to me. It's a killer album, tons of fucking killer riffs on it. So many great songs in this album. The nitpicking started when I was like, well, following Practice What You Preach, there's not enough of a progression here in what they did. And a big sticking point with me in this album is the production, because I like 80s style production, but there's something about this album that occasionally it sounds like you're listening to the band playing slightly down the hallway from you.
It's kind of boxy. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know what you
and
mean.
It kind of bums me out because I think that it deserves a way better production than it got. But it's classic at this point. It sounds how it sounds, and I like how it sounds because it's a character in what the album is. But yeah, it's still chock full of fucking great songs, and it's got that classic Testament sound that I love, because I'm unapologetically a huge fan of how they sounded in the 80s.
Yeah.
And the song Souls of Black is a fucking killer song. It's one of my favorites. Yeah.
I had to.
It's an amazing album, but when you're dealing with a catalog like Testament, really great albums end up being, I mean, obviously we've said it, there's no bad Testament album. And at this point is when it got really hard for me. That's what she said. But so the next episode will be even more of that, of me being all like, it hurt me to put this here, but here's where it ended up. Because I love all these albums, and I would put Testament in the group of one of my favorite bands, easily in the top 20. I don't know if they'd be my top 10, but they're a favorite enough to where I do expect a lot out of them, and sometimes that's not fair. I don't know.
They certainly kick ass.
They do, and so yeah. So that's I got a drink of water for those of you listening in the podcast world. In the middle, that's how professional I am. In the middle of saying something, I decided that I needed to have a drink of water. And so we can't say we did it this time, because we didn't do it yet. That'll be next episode when we did it.
Yeah, we're halfway.
Yeah. So yeah, that's our lower half of the Testament ranking. To all the gathering stands out there, we good. It's all right. Anyway,
as if they're still listening.
They're not. They already commented, and they've moved on to commenting on other things. Anyway, they probably didn't even. I mean, that's the thing that I've noticed, is that maybe it's because of how long these videos are, but people still constantly go back and watch and comment on my shorter ranking ones. And I'm like, yeah, but you don't really get a good conversation about the albums that way. That's why this is so much better. Because anytime somebody's asked, when are you going to go back to doing the old style rankings that you did? I'm like, never, because that was rushed. That is me rushing a ranking. And this is way more of a, not just in the conversation we have, but in preparation. It's way more, I take it way more seriously. And I feel like at the end of the day, it's the rank, like we've said before, the ranking becomes not that important. The big thing is the conversation about the band and the albums in general. So I wish more people watched these, but I mean, maybe one day we'll blow up big and we'll have a big famous podcast that we can go on tour.
I think all we have to do is just drop a shitload of vaccine misinformation, and we'll be as big as Joe Rogan.
There we go. That's topical right there.
Oh, we gotta say the what were you gonna say?
The opinions on Cranked and Ranked may not be those of the YouTube. I don't know. I don't know. That's what we should do. We should do Cranked and Ranked and have some sort of medical professional on, and then just halfway through the episode, just go like, you know what? I don't think that you know what you're talking about because you're just a doctor.
Like, have a serious scientific discussion for like 3 straight hours, and then just turn around and go, "Psych, nerd."
Actually, I guess the equivalent for us would be like literally having Alex Skolnick on the episode, and then he tells us about how a riff was written, and we're like, I don't really think that's how it was written, Alex. I think that you're mistaken. I've done my own
Dave
research.
Wrote it.
We've done our research, and we think Dave Mustaine wrote all your riffs. Okay, Alex? Anyway. All right. So yeah, and on that note, if we didn't put God, turn it around. I haven't seen that mug. Turn it around. Other way.
Peanut butter platypus.
Peanut butter platypus to everybody. No, turn it the other side.
I was prompting you to say peanut butter platypus.
Peanut butter platypus, because I don't have one of those mugs. It's the Cranked and Ranked mug. I like that. That looks good, right?
It's a good mug.
It's yeah. So we have merch. Go buy merch.
There's no holes in it anywhere. I've checked.
Good. That's good because it's hard to drink a cup of coffee when the coffee is just running out of the bottom of the mug. So it is quality stuff, confirmed by Eddie Sparxx.
Yeah. Quality control.
Yeah. Awesome. So yeah, that's it for this episode of Cranked and Ranked. We will be back next week with the second half of the Testament ranking. And then at this point, I don't think either one of us that I know of has any breaks we got to take. So we are going to be fucking off and running with we're going
to be cranking, ranking, speeding, and feeding your content.
Yeah. Open up and say for more content. We already did Poison. So we won't go back to there.
Go back and watch some of our back catalog if you haven't. Chances are, if you like a band, we maybe might have talked about them. So just type in said band and Cranked and Ranked, and it'll come up. Go ahead. There's a lot of. Sorry, I was going to say there's a lot of people that say, "When are you going to do this band?" It's like we've done it. Just look it up. How did you get onto YouTube? Like, just also type it in.
But there was a guy on the Old Heads Bangers and Beyond Facebook group that like somebody posted a Descendants album, and like he said, like, there was no way that Eddie and Steven would ever rank this band. I'm all like, I love the Descendants, and challenge accepted. So I'm like, add that to our list, because I'm like, don't tell me we're not going to rank something, because there are some things we won't rank. If it's like,
what do you mean I don't like the Descendants?
I do. I love them. But I have to admit, like there are areas where, it's that thing, like if you don't got something nice to say, don't say anything. So, if anyone ever comes out and they're all like, when are you going to rank the Talking Heads? I would just scroll past that and be like, I'm just not going to say anything about that. Anyway. All right. So that's the end of this episode of Cranked and Ranked. Thank you very much for listening in the podcast world, for watching in the YouTube world. And as usual, I'm throwing it over to Eddie Sparxx to take us out.
I tried to do a Chuck Billy kind of first strike is deadly.
I was floored by it. I was like, damn, dude. Damn, Daniel.
Damn, Daniel. Back at it again with the fucking white vans. Damn, Daniel.
Did we end? Are we over? We're done. Bye.
I guess we Later, dude.